This is Adam Watson.
Robert Diaz.
And you're listening to the 25th episode of the Darkslinger Mafia podcast.
Huzzah!
So, I had to say that because, as you know, this is an anniversary edition podcast where we'll be doing nothing extra special tonight.
Same shit.
But we hit number
different
25.
day.
So did you think we were going to hit 25 when we first started doing this?
I hadn't thought about it, but I didn't see why not.
Yeah. Well, there's another podcast that I'm on that's had trouble getting past like issue number 6. Or not issue, episode number 6. So I was a little bit worried that something similar might happen with this one. But this is our actually 26th week because we did take a week off for Christmas. So 25 episodes in total. I think we're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
You've been featured on almost all of them. We featured a few special guests, done some interviews, done some things like that. I'm going to be doing another interview coming up in April. Sam Quinton, who was on an earlier episode of the podcast, is going to be interviewed once again for his upcoming Kickstarter sometime in the month of April. I'll announce a date as that comes closer and we arrange things.
Cool. I don't know what else to say about that.
Well, you weren't on the episode where we interviewed him. That was Elias and I.
Yeah, I never met him.
Yeah.
I don't even know what he does.
He is a comic creator and he also does Dungeons & Dragons books.
Oh, that guy. You were telling me about him the other day, I think?
Yeah.
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 D&D. That's cool.
Yeah. So I had Elias with me because I've never actually played D&D. And so I figured I should have someone ask some questions who did. But I think as it turns out, when you don't know something about what the product is, it makes for a better interview in a lot of ways.
Yeah, because you're asking a lot of questions about it.
When I did the Ghost Assassin rounds on podcasts, when the Kickstarter was going, I think the absolute best interview I did was with a guy who had never read a comic in his life. So he's asking all these questions that I don't think a comic reader would think to ask, but they were really, really good questions because he came from outside of it, right?
Yeah, you see things in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I think sometimes that makes for the best interviews.
I played my first game in D&D.
And then maybe it's not so
fun.
confusing, too, because if you know something inside and out, you're more likely to use a lot of shorthands.
Now you can get into D&D, too, and you can be a super nerd about it.
I could, but I think that probably takes a lot of time. That's why I never play Dungeons & Dragons, because I don't have the time for it, because somebody told me it's even longer than Monopoly. And since I don't have the time to sit down and play Monopoly, I figured I better not get into that.
It's definitely not a short game. It's a continuous game.
I know something about the little miniature figures for it, though. I know a little bit about those.
Yeah, you can get a figure for anything and use it.
Yeah, probably. But I only know something about the little miniature figures because I've resold them.
You sold a lot of figures. There's some sitting right there.
Yeah, those are from BattleTech.
Lame. Nerds.
Is BattleTech nerdier than Dungeons & Dragons?
No idea.
Oh, okay.
Don't know about
I don't know. They look cool. They're little mechs. I know that the prices I've got off them I've been very happy with. So
I could use a new little character for my D&D guy.
Oh, yeah?
I should steal one of those.
Still one I haven't listed yet.
I don't know which that is.
And try to make it like one that's not like $40. So
no. More expensive. More
you
power.
You need one that's at least 60.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense. So, posted the Bovine Muerte update on Wednesday. And then I have another one going up tomorrow. We're recording this on Thursday. This won't be up until Monday, but we're recording on Thursday. So, got another Bovine Muerte update. That's the first time I've done 2 Bovine Muerte updates in over 5 years. So, I've got the Easter update that's going to be posted tomorrow. Because this weekend's Easter.
Tomorrow is Friday.
Tomorrow is Friday.
Yeah. Nice. Why not release it on Easter?
I'll probably advertise it on Easter.
Oh.
But I figured I'd put it up on Friday just because doing updates on weekdays makes a little bit more sense than weekends for some reason to me.
Yeah, people are busy on Easter.
Yeah.
Some people.
And it gives a little bit more time for people to see it prior to So if they check out the website on Friday, then they know that I wish them a happy Easter.
Oh, isn't that nice?
Yes, it's very nice. Lame Mime also wishes them a happy Easter. So speaking of El Bovine Muerte, I spent like 2 hours last night digging around for the script for El Bovine Muerte issue number 5 before I realized that I'd only ever handwrote it. And it still needed to be typed up and revised.
Oh, so you weren't literally digging around. You were looking on a computer.
I was digging in files, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I was on both of my computers and going through like every single flash drive and Dropbox account and all that, looking for this, trying to figure out where I saved it. Turns out that I just never actually typed it.
Well, computers have a search function as to the stuff that's on there.
They do. And I don't trust them whatsoever. And here's why. Because I wasn't sure what I named the file.
I would think it's El Bovine Muerte or EBM.
You would think so.
Or something like that.
But sometimes, because it's being saved into the folder for El Bovine Muerte, I'll just save it as issue number 4 or issue 5.
All that searching. Is that it sitting right there?
That is it, sitting right there.
Looks pretty old.
It's not old.
Maybe that's just the paper.
It is a Hellboy journal. I'll show you.
Oh, okay.
So, years ago, Things from Another World had all of these journals, and this is a Hellboy animated journal. And I prefer to write all of my scripts longhand first. So, this one was written out in a Hellboy animated journal. And now you have seen the page, but you probably couldn't read it because it's my handwriting.
Didn't really try to read it.
Okay, that's fair too. From El Bovine Muerte number 5, but I'm really working hard to try to get it revised and typed up so I can send it off to Gabriel. So we can get working on that. I'd really like to be an issue ahead. That'd be nice.
Another one of your million things to do.
Right? Yeah, and I've been working a ton on lettering this week.
What are you lettering?
I'm re-lettering earlier El Bovine Muerte pages. I was re-lettering Chronicles von Helsing pages, working on lettering for advanced Ghost Assassin stuff, things of that nature.
You need an update on it, so...
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to go back and retouch stuff.
Yep, sometimes.
Especially with coming to do the... Well, you're putting them all together, right?
Yeah, trade paperback and hardcover. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not spoilers, is it?
No, that's not.
Oh,
Chronicles von Helsing will be released as a hardcover this year, and El Bovine Muerte will see its first trade paperback this year. So yeah, neither of those things are spoilers.
Gotta get it looking all crisp and clean.
Yes, exactly. And when I did lettering on those books, I didn't know all the things about lettering that I know now.
Like how to spell?
No, I knew that one.
Oh, okay, good.
Although I did find an instance where I used the wrong your. That drove me nuts.
What an idiot.
I know.
Like printed?
Yes.
Oh, God.
And no one caught it. I was like, wait, that's the wrong your. I gotta fix that.
That's gotta be the worst to know that that's out there.
It is. It is. I feel ashamed and embarrassed. And I hate admitting to it publicly.
That's what keeps you up at night.
It does make me feel better, though, knowing there's at least 30 grammatical errors in every single Marvel comic. So, Marvel Comics published today. Not during, like, the Jim Shooter, Chris Claremont, all those guys' era.
Well, it's still above the benchmark of colder.
Were there a lot of spelling errors in that?
No.
I don't even remember. That was so bad.
I don't remember. It's more of how much I liked it.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
At least my version of quality.
Right.
Man, that was atrocious.
Yeah, that was. It was just bad. You been reading anything good lately?
I was just about to ask you that.
Okay.
I haven't read any new comics. I'm on a new book.
Mm-hmm.
Because I found a show on Netflix that was based off a book, and I didn't know that till after watching the show, Altered Carbon.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that pop up a few times. But I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, it's good. I'd recommend it.
I thought that was a comic, too.
Richard K. Morgan.
Okay.
Is the writer. I think he's a famous sci-fi writer.
Mm-hmm.
Came across my thing
I
my
know
radar.
there is a comic called that. I don't know if it's the same thing or not, though.
It would probably be a pretty good comic, I bet.
Yeah, it was something that was put out, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. I think I have some of them in the long boxes.
Oh, God. I'm not going through that.
Well, I will next time I'm
At
going
least
there.
it's organized, though.
Yeah, except for 3 boxes. There are 3 boxes in there that still need to be alphabetized.
You know, I used to be not really a fan of single issue comics. I was like, why would I buy this?
But then you started going to Comic Cons and find them for $0.25 a piece.
Yeah, and then they're so cheap. And now I can, you can read it and then you're done with it.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to like read it and then you're done with that part and put it down and come back later. So I wouldn't mind having some more single issues.
Yeah, it's weird. I quit reading anything in single issue for years and years. But then there were some comics that I really wanted to read that were only available that way. So I started reading those in the single issue format. And it kind of opened it back up to, I guess I don't hate reading single issues so much anymore. But I think a big part of the reason I didn't like it is because the bigger publishers at the time, they were releasing things in singles and then it'd immediately be in trade paperback form. There's so much good stuff out there still that never was released in trade form, or the trades are just impossible to find.
I wouldn't mind to get more, but I have a hard time spending money on comics. I want to get Nailbiter. That's like the one for me to, if I'm gonna buy anything new this year, I feel like it should be that.
I have volume 2.
Oh yeah, you said that. I still haven't gotten that.
Yeah,
I don't even know where my volume 1 is. Don't know what happened to it. Did it end up here?
Possibly.
It did for a while.
I might possibly have that actually.
It was here for a while, but I don't know if it stayed.
It might have.
Yeah.
It very well might have. But yeah, as to what I've been reading, at the beginning of this year, when we asked each other our reading goals, one of mine was to read all 7 of the hardcovers of the Max. I have now accomplished that. But there's about a bit of sad news once I finished it. So
there's more that you have to read?
No, there's not, unless you want to get like the weird little stories.
Oh.
Which, I wouldn't mind reading, but some of those are actually quite hard to find. Years and years and years ago, I bought a huge collection of comics, big surprise, right? And one of the issues in there was a comic published in the 90s. It was called Gay Comics. And one of them had the Max in it, apparently having a dream. If I'm just going off the cover, but he's having a dream that he was gay within the comic, right? I looked it up online because I never heard of it. It was going for like $50 at the time or something like that.
Damn.
So I flipped that. But now I'm like, I wish I would have read it before I flipped it. But anyway, no. The sad thing is, so the Max is really closely associated with the artist on it. And I don't know that the writer of it was actually a creator of it or just somebody that was paid to write it. I don't know how anything like that worked. But I know it was written by William Mesner-Loebs. And I finished this thing a couple weeks ago, and then 2 nights ago, I think it was, I found out apparently he and his wife, and he's elderly. I'm not sure exactly how old he is now, but the Max is something he wrote like 30 years ago, and he's got to be in his late 60s at least. I should really look up before I say exactly how old he is. But anyway, he and his wife are apparently homeless, living out of their car right now.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. So there were a lot of people pitching his GoFundMe, which apparently the GoFundMe isn't directly his. It's like a church that's helping him out. But I think he's getting all the money that goes to the GoFundMe. I hope at least.
That's nice.
Yeah, but apparently they've been homeless for a few years. And the thing is, this guy's an immensely talented writer. But for some reason, like people who work for Marvel and DC, if they lose their relevance for even a moment, Marvel and DC just replace them with somebody from the new crop of talent, right? Who a lot of times are not as talented as these older guys are. So it's a shame that he didn't keep getting work in the industry. Because that's one of the big things that led to him being homeless, He used to write Wonder Woman and, books for Marvel, books for DC, all this kind of stuff. I think, if I remember right, he was a Hulk writer for a long time, or maybe an artist, because I think he did both writing and art. in any case, there's so many people that are writing for Marvel and DC right now who can't sell over like 5,000 copies of a book, and that book's not even selling because of anything to do with them. It's selling because, you know, the quality's such shit, but the character still sells copies, you know. No matter what you put Spider-Man on it, you're guaranteed to get a certain amount of sales, right?
Yeah,
you put Wolverine on it, same thing. Deadpool, same thing.
People love the classic.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter how garbage tier it is. It'll still sell with those characters, right? But it's like, this guy's a legitimately, majorly talented writer, and he can't get work over these people who can't even make the characters seem like they're the characters, you know? They publish something that has, you know, Batman in it or whatever, and he's acting like Iron Man. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just ranting at this point, but you know what I mean.
That's what we do. It's the 25th episode.
That's true. And I don't know why, but it really aggravates me when I try to read a Batman comic, in the rare instance that I do, where he's relying super heavily on technology. I like Batman to have a bunch of fantastic toys, you know, the Batarang, all that kind of stuff. But I don't want him to be so technologically advanced that he's basically just Iron Man. I fucking hate that.
Yeah, that's lame.
Like, Court of Owls, he was walking around with these contacts that had, like, computers in the contacts, right? And so they're telling him who everyone is based on facial recognition and all that, you know. That wouldn't have bothered me so bad had he been wearing his cowl. And they were, like, lenses that were basically like Google glasses, but a version that worked.
I wish that would have taken off. I liked it. I thought it
put
was
into
awesome.
the cowl. But he's walking around the dinner party with these contacts in, and I'm like, am I reading Batman or Iron Man? This is bugging me.
That's
glad
too
I didn't
bad.
pay money for that.
I haven't read that, but I like the sound of the story for it.
I didn't much care for it, but you know, I'm also one of those people though who, like, when it comes to Batman, I like Batman a lot, and I like a lot of the Batman movies that have came out. But if I'm going to invest a bunch of time reading Batman, I want it to be like one of the really good Batman stories. I never want to read mediocre Batman. You know what I mean?
Was Batman and Robin your favorite Batman movie?
Oh, God, that movie's so great. Mr. Freeze ice skating around, singing Frosty the Snowman or whatever the fuck.
Ice to see you.
Oh, God.
That movie was terrible.
Oh, that's so bad, but you know, I would take it any day of the week over Batman vs. Superman.
I never saw that. I haven't seen any of DC's new movies.
Okay, how new are we talking?
None of them, I don't think, like, in the recent years that they've made movies.
You didn't even see, like, Christopher Nolan Batman movies?
Okay, those, yeah, I get. But, like, these newer things after Nolan, like, Nolan's was the only ones that I really watched.
Okay.
Beyond that, you know, I didn't watch any of the Superman movies.
Okay.
Oh, God,
I liked Man of Steel.
I watched
liked
Suicide Squad.
Oh, I didn't watch that. I have not watched Suicide Squad. I haven't seen Justice League.
I haven't seen Justice League. Didn't watch the Supermans. I watched
Man of Steel.
I watched part of Wonder Woman.
And I watched Superman vs. Batman, but it was because someone dropped it off at my house. Which I didn't know that they were dropping it off just because they hated it so bad. And then my kids had asked to watch it, and I'm like, yeah, sure. You know, it was free. Why not? Well, yeah, even for free, it was awful.
And they do a good job at making their trailers look good.
Yes, but let's see, the DC movies I really liked. Okay, Losers, I thought was really good.
Didn't see it.
Okay, that's not a DC Universe movie. Okay. You know, it's not one of the main.
Yeah, I don't know.
I actually really enjoyed the Jonah Hex movie.
Didn't see it.
The Christopher Nolan Batman movies, of course.
Everybody loves those. Fantastic.
You know, there's a lot of comic fans that bitch about the third one.
Yeah, well, fuck them.
Yeah, well, shh, those are our listeners. Anyway, I like the third one. Then, you know, there's been a lot of good, but there's been the DC main universe, like, I don't know if Green Lantern was a part of that, but the Justice League movies, they're fucking horrid.
Deadpool's good.
Deadpool's Marvel.
Yeah, whatever. He was Green Lantern.
He was.
So.
And that's funny how they played that off.
Yeah. I think I might read more comics if I didn't have to pay for them, because it's the kind of thing like, oh man, I don't want to pay for this, because there's other things that
well, there is
this
thing called the library.
Yeah, but there's a thing called the library on my phone that gives me audiobooks.
It's true. I guess that's true anyway. I don't know what audiobooks have to do with sitting down and reading something, but
it means that I don't have to go to the library to check out books from them.
You hate going to the library that much?
No, it's just far out of my way.
Oh,
the only time I'm near the library is when I'm here, which
okay,
is at night.
Right. Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, well, one of the ways that I read as many comics as I do is because I buy so many to resell.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I read recently was a comic that was put out by Caliber back in, I'm going to say, the early 90s. I think it was put out in like 91, 92. That I had picked up, and I thought the cover looked interesting. I thought the title was stupid. But I had opened up and found out that it was early David Mack art, who went on to do Kabuki, which I'm sure you've never heard of, but some of our listeners may have.
Kabuki makeup.
So I'd set it aside as something to read at some point in time. And I started to read it last night. And I gotta say, it's really good. Holds up really well. But it's called Young Dracula. So I don't like the name, because I think Young Dracula sounds really stupid.
It does sound kind of lame.
Doesn't it? But the book is actually not lame at all. I quite enjoyed it.
You just have to make it past the name.
You gotta make it past the name, yeah. And it's different reading comics from back then than when you read something that was published today, because it has so many more words in it. And a lot of it is just narrative dialogue. It's not anything that they're actually speaking. It's just all in the character's head, but there's so much more to the writing of it in a lot of ways because of that. But you also get to know the character a lot more because of that.
So, I mean, it's a pretty wordy comic.
I would say it's probably on par with Sandman.
That's pretty wordy.
Not quite as wordy as Watchmen.
I've never looked at the Watchmen book. Sandman's really
I
wordy.
love Watchmen. Alex is trying to read Watchmen right now, and he said he's picked it up and put it back down about 12 times now that he can't make it through the first issue in it.
I have a friend that just picked up Watchmen. I didn't even know that they read comics, these two, but then I saw that they just got it.
Uh-huh.
Like, oh, that's cool. I wonder what else
I've never actually seen an Alan Moore script, but from what I understand, he describes absolutely every single detail he wants in a panel.
I bet there's
Everything.
like some dirty doodles on the side too. But like poorly drawn.
Maybe, I don't know. But apparently even like, if there's supposed to be a clock in the apartment, whether it's relevant to the story or not, the clock has to be set to a certain time in his scripts. And
so it's like 10 pages of script for one panel?
Basically, yeah.
That sounds awful.
Yeah, they're incredibly long scripts from what I understand. It's basically like he's writing a novel for a 32-page book. That's what I've heard anyway. Where Neil Gaiman, from what I've heard him say in interviews, he writes his scripts more like he writes a letter to the artist. So it's like a letter describing what his vision is, and then just kind of like inviting them to carry it out in their way, sort of thing.
I bet it's fantastic. When I listened to American Gods, there was an older version, but then there was a new updated version, and that was the one that I caught. And he comes on at the end and explains like how this came about.
Right.
And I had these changes that came later on from the older version of the book, and it's just he's so eloquent when he speaks.
Oh, he is
fantastic.
He's so pleasant to listen to.
Yeah. It was really good.
I love him.
So, I mean, and that transfers to his books. They're really good.
Yeah, I love Neil Gaiman. I think he's fantastic. And you haven't read Sandman yet, right?
I'm the first one, not all the way.
So, DC recently announced they're going to be coming out with a bunch of imprints. And
Imprints.
Okay, so you have like the publishing company DC, right?
Okay.
And then the kind of sub companies that are underneath it that publish specific works are considered imprints. So Vertigo is an imprint of DC Comics.
Okay.
So Vertigo is owned by DC, but when you see the name Vertigo on it, you know the type of stuff they're going to be producing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
because I am in my brain when I
the
see them,
Sandman universe, right? The Sandman universe has always fit underneath the Vertigo umbrella, but recently they made an announcement that they're going to be doing this new imprint of books. They're calling, I think, the Sandman universe, but it's kind of the Gaiman universe in a lot of ways. So he, from what I can tell, is not actually writing any of the stories, but he is the head overseer of everything.
So, essentially, he'd touch all the stories.
Yes. So
he's not writing them.
I would think at the very least it's probably a thing to where, he's given them the basic plots and they're free to run with it. And then he gets shown it prior to it going to the artist. That's what I would assume happened. Because I know that's how they did both The Dreaming and Lucifer back during the time, those books were going on. Because those were both Sandman Universe titles. And one of the new titles is actually going to be a new iteration of The Dreaming. It's interesting. I'm hoping, though, because, there's actually a lot of Sandman material out there that's never been collected. So I'm hoping that this might encourage them to, I don't know, maybe do like a Sandman library that's the other stuff, that was offshoot. Like Lucifer, that got collected, of course. But The Dreaming only got like 2 collections, I think. And then there was a hardcover where they put together a bunch of different stuff that Bill Willingham of Fables wrote prior to Fables that he did for Vertigo. They released it as one hardcover, and the stuff he did in The Dreaming was collected in that. But for the most part, that series went like 55 or 60 issues, something like that.
It's a pretty good run.
And very, very little of it's ever been collected. And then there are a lot of miniseries, like the miniseries that featured Death, who's Dream's sister. Those got collected in the Absolute Edition. But then there was a side story in the universe that was called The Girl Who Would Be Death, or Who Will Be Death, or something like that. That was a 4-issue one, and that's fantastic, and it's never seen a collected edition. And it should. So I'd be happy if they just did like some omnibus edition that just collected a whole bunch of this stuff into one volume. I'd be fine with that.
It's a pretty neat universe.
It is. And I would much prefer to have Sandman stuff on my shelf than in my comic boxes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it fits better there.
I mean, I got Sandman stuff on mine because of you.
Right.
I got them from you.
Yeah.
Sandman and Crisis are the 2 wordiest comics that I own.
Crisis is incredibly wordy.
I think
it's
that's
so wordy.
Way more than Sandman.
Yes. Crisis is I would say Crisis is needlessly wordy.
There's
personally.
so much to it.
There is, and it needed about half of it.
And it's a big fucking book.
It is. It is. Yeah, they're coming out with all these imprints, and one of them is this new imprint that if I remember right, is called Black Label. And if I understand the concept correctly, which I've read very little about it, but from what I understand, it's basically like any top tier writer can come in and use any DC character and tell like an out of continuity story that can be as mature as they want. So it can be like a Batman story, which, in different time period they would have called these Elseworlds tales. But these days it's Black Label. And it's like, premium authors telling premium stories in a premium format, I think is what the whole deal is. But, you ever want to tell a story about Batman when he kills, and you're one of the premier writers, you could do it underneath this label. And be free of the restrictions of whatever they could have in the monthly title. So
that's a neat idea.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems pretty cool. They've announced a few of the titles that are going to be coming out from underneath it. And I'd be interested in picking up at least a few of them. Just check it out. Why not?
I got something right here to read that you handed me earlier.
Yeah. The Wicked Righteous by Alterna. Yeah.
Although it is issue number 3.
It is, but I don't feel that you're going to be all that lost in it, honestly. It does a pretty good job of filling you in, I think. But who knows, because I did read the first issue, so I may only think that because I read the first issue.
Well, I don't think it's too hard. It is a very limited amount of area for them to catch you up in.
Right.
But it's also a very, very limited amount of stuff to be caught up on.
Yeah.
Only 3 issues in.
Yeah. I'm trying to do my part to help spread the word about some other independent comic companies.
I like the cover. It's attention grabbing.
Yeah, I like the premise a lot. The premise of that one is it's a post-apocalyptic world, but from what I gathered from the first issue, but wasn't really explicitly stated, it kind of seems like it's a post-rapture world, which is kind of a little bit different than your standard post-apocalyptic take. So you know what the rapture is, right? It's a Christian thing. It's when Jesus
comes, good people go to heaven.
Yeah.
The rest of us shitbags are left here.
In theory, children would be taken during the rapture, and this book revolves around children. So I need to track down the second issue and get the rest of the 6-issue limited series so I can see the full scope of everything. But this is definitely something I would pick up in trade paperback form. I really like Terry Mayo as a writer. I think the artwork is good in it.
Think they'll put it into trade?
Yeah. Alternative releases trades all their stuff.
Yeah, the artwork is really good in it.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. I like the old school paper to it.
Yes, I do too. So the comic shop I go
that reads
to the most frequently, I kept asking him if they carried the alternate books, because I'm willing to try any of their books. They're $1.50 a piece. If I end up not liking it, I was out hardly anything. The way I look at it, I have more change that I put in a change jar at the end of the night than what those cost.
It's a good price.
But he finally told me that he wasn't carrying their books because he would be embarrassed to.
Why? What's wrong with it?
I don't know. I didn't understand that because, there's a lot of stuff that he carries in his shop that Marvel or DC have published, or Image or Dark Horse or any of those companies, that I would be embarrassed to put in my shop. And yet he thought that their books were embarrassing. I find their books to be really high quality.
It looks high quality. It looks really good.
Yeah.
Is it the paper stock that they choose to use?
I am guessing so. I'm guessing that it's because it's on newsprint.
I like it.
Mm-hmm. But Things from Another World, which is a chain of stores, you can find them there.
I also like reading the newspaper. So
yeah.
That works for me too.
I like newsprint just fine because it's what I grew up with comics being made out of.
Yeah, it looks old school.
So I've got no issues with it, and I've actually been kicking around the idea of bringing this back to Darkslinger finally. I have been kicking around the idea of doing Chronicles von Helsing that way.
I think it would look good on that kind of stock.
I think it would too. I don't want to do Ghost Assassin that way. I think Ghost Assassin needs a little bit more premium paper, But Chronicles von Helsing, I think, would look really good on newsprint. And I like the old school feel it would have then,
Yeah, because the way it looks, it would look good on that kind of paper.
Mm-hmm.
And it would give it an old school feel.
Right.
Because it feels more old school.
Right.
I don't actually know the time setting for this book.
It depends fully on which issue. Each issue takes place in a different time period.
What's your span?
The first volume, let's see, the very last issue, number 5, I believe takes place in 2002, if I remember right. And Robert and Ezekiel are supposed to be around 48 in that issue. The very first issue has Jeannie at 16, and she is Robert and Jeannie's grandma, and they weren't even born until she was like in her 60s, something like that. So, do the math.
Quite some time ago.
Quite some time ago. So, there's a large span of time there.
But it would work.
But I jumped around a lot in the first volume intentionally so that I had a lot of gaps I could fill in.
It's good writing.
But Chronicles von Helsing is also... It is the largest cast I've ever had to write because each volume follows a different family member, even though Robert and Ezekiel are the main two who will be kind of like the narrators. You know what I mean? Mm. But when the title says Chronicles von Helsing, it literally means there is a chronicle that,
that's going on.
And so they will be finding out about various members of their family who are vampire hunters throughout the series, or like in one of the volumes, I may jump back to before Jeannie died and have her be telling Robert a story about one of their family members, or, you know, one of the family members that was alive when she was a kid, something like that, you know.
That's neat. I mean, as long as you can keep everything straight, then
I
jumping like that
seems
is
to do a
fine.
pretty good job of keeping it straight when I go back and reread them. It's difficult at times to remember who was supposed to be born during what time period and all that, you know. And
You need a chart.
I do have charts. I have big old charts. I actually found
I should explain a chart.
an unused family history book at a garage sale one year, and it became the Von Helsing family history book.
It works.
So I filled the whole thing out as if it was one of my characters writing in it, and they were telling their family history like anyone would if they were writing in a book like that.
Painted on the wall, Harry Potter style, like with
I
the
thought
House
about
of Black.
doing that actually. Actually, that was something that was in my head before I even saw that Harry Potter, but I kept being told to quit writing on the walls. So
That's when you say they're my walls. That would look cool though.
Right? It would. Imagine how cool it would be if I could get Tony to paint a mural on the wall of a family tree.
That'd be pretty badass.
Someday there's going to be legit Darkslinger offices, and then I can do that there and no one can tell me I can't.
Until you change locations and then you're like, fuck, I gotta paint over this.
Fuck that. If I change locations, I'm just going to bring in some sheetrock experts to carefully cut it and move it.
Remove this wall and transfer it.
Remove this wall, pay the fine.
That sounds like way more work than having it painted over and repainted somewhere else.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm highly against destroying artwork by Tony, so if I pay him to put a mural of the family tree on the wall, then I'd prefer to just cut it off the wall and take it with me.
What if he destroyed it?
Oh, well, if he destroyed it, I guess that's something completely different.
Destroys it so he can remake it in
Well,
a new light.
I guess that could happen. Or I could just get a bunch of pieces of scratch board, tack them to the wall, and have Alan sit there for days, scratching away at a family tree.
And then that one little mistake. Fuck! Start it over.
I could see that.
One and done, it seems, with that stuff.
Yeah. It could. I don't know. He's got some way to fix it, it seems like.
No, I bet there's ways to fix it, but
Yeah.
never something that I could do.
No, I would not have the patience to do what he does with the scratch board. It's insane.
I don't have the patience to learn. I might have the patience to do it if I already knew how.
Fair enough. As far as I know, he's completely self-taught at that.
Damn.
Yeah. Anyone who's listening, if you haven't seen Alan Bennett's scratchboard artwork, you should really go online, just Google Alan Bennett scratchboard. I'm sure it'll come up.
It's impressive.
I would say what his website is, but quite frankly, I'm not sure. So. But yeah, you won't regret it. He's got some amazing scratchboard
some
pieces.
good friendship.
Well, I know his company was Black Box Comics forever, right? But I think, like Ben, I'm used to saying Warrior Innkeeper Comics, but he changed it a while back to Warrior Innkeeper Creative. Alan did something along those lines too. So I'm not sure if it's Black Box Creative, or if I'm just thinking that because that's what Ben's is, or if it's Black Box Entertainment, or
So maybe Alan Bennett Black Box.
or just maybe Alan Bennett Scratchboard, because I know that'll come up. I know his blog is Tales from the Scratchpad, so you could search for that. That one I do know.
I've always liked that name.
Scratchpad?
Tales from the Scratch.
Tales from Scratchpad, yeah.
Yeah,
I like
that's
the
good.
name a lot. It's very good. Melissa did finish her Melissa pinup.
Melissa finished Melissa.
Melissa finished Melissa, which,
Nice.
it looks amazing. And I think it would work very well for what I have it planned for. And she's already hard at work on the next one, which is going to feature Lucy from the Chronicles Von Helsing.
Nice. How long till people get to see these?
I'm actually going to be posting the Melissa image on Instagram, but I meant to do it today. Since I didn't get a chance to, I think I'm going to wait till Monday, because there's a weird sort of thing on social media where if you post it over the weekend, and I'm including Friday in that, it'll just be kind of eaten up by other bullshit and no one will see it.
All the weekend stuff that people put up there.
All the weekend stuff. Since this is a weekend of spring break, no one would see it right now. So I'm just going to wait till Monday or Tuesday. And then I'm going to be posting it.
Smart.
Yeah.
I got on Instagram earlier, but it was only for... Was it even Instagram? I can't remember anymore.
I didn't even know you had an Instagram account.
Oh, I have one, but I had to get on the link from Reddit.
Oh.
So I could check out these other pictures of something that I wanted to see.
I gotcha.
Some woodworking stuff.
I think that's probably about it for this week. We've chewed up enough air just talking about bullshit. But hey, it's our 25th episode, so we can be more relaxed on this one, right?
It's pretty much someone just recording a normal conversation. We spent 2 hours bullshitting before we even started.
Yeah, 2 hours about basically the same stuff we just recorded about.
Yeah.
So, in any case, let's do a quick plug for Ben's Kickstarter.
Plug them.
So Ben Kreger is running a Kickstarter right now for Black Suited Death issue number 3. You should go over to Kickstarter, type in Black Suited Death, and check that out. If you back him, feel more than welcome to go onto Facebook or Twitter, whichever, at that point, and tell Ben, fuck you. He'll like that.
He likes it when you say that.
Yeah, he likes it when I say that. Anyway, Ben's comic is the origin of the Grim Reaper.
Only do that if you backed.
Yeah. Yeah, otherwise it's just rude.
Yeah. Don't be a dick.
So anyway, Ben's comic is the origin of the Grim Reaper. It's about a suit of armor that kills people. And if you put it on, you're basically the Grim Reaper. And tells the story of the Grim Reaper throughout time, I think. So, anyway, if that sounds cool to you, head over to Kickstarter and check out Black Suited Death on Kickstarter. That wasn't a paid advertisement at all.
None of our advertisements are ever paid.
Yeah, but I wanted it to seem like it was.
Oh, okay. We talk about all these comics and no one pays for it.
Right. So, yeah. So, next week, we should have more exciting stuff to talk about because I'll be out of production mode and more into creative mode. Join us next week as we take the first step on the road to episode number 50. You can find us on Facebook. We have fan pages for Darkslinger Comics, Ghost Assassin, and Bovine Muerte. On Twitter, under Darkslinger Comics. Tumblr, Darkslinger Comics, and Bovine Muerte. Instagram, under Darkslinger Comics. YouTube, Darkslinger0com. Google Plus, I believe Darkslinger Comics as well. If not Darkslinger Comics, just try Darkslinger. I'm Adam Watson.
Robert Diaz.
Thank you for listening.